fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
The city of Denver, the state of Colorado, you guys have been fucking amazing for the last 10 years.
Let me start off with a Twitch feed this morning, and I got to get the whole name right. Mile High Hockey Lab.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Yo, hello, and welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab. My name is Adrian Hernandez. I'm here today with Ezra Parter and Evan Liu, as we've got another bro show coming right at you for the 55th installment of the Mile High Hockey Lab. Thank you very much for tuning in. Of course, as always, if you enjoy what you are soaking up in terms of content, please head on over to milehighhockey.com. Also, give us a follow on X and all that good stuff. You can see us there at Mile High Hockey. And of course, the podcast itself is at all caps MHH_lab. So let's just start talking Colorado Avalanche hockey, as it's one of the good episodes, with the Avalanche being inside of a 7-game winning streak. Correct. You heard me correct. 7-game winning streak. And that includes some pretty dominant road play. So Evan, I'm going to send this one your way. What has been the key or keys to victory for Colorado over these 7 games?
I think the easy answer here has to be getting depth provided, right? That's something that this Avalanche team has not really gotten this season much at all, right? And while you can look back at the Mikko Rantanen hat trick that we had last night in St. Louis, you're getting a ton of help from depth guys. Sean Walker has been phenomenal. Casey Middlestat has been phenomenal, right? Brandon Duhaime, even, I would say, looks pretty good too. Specifically on the penalty kill, I saw a tweet from ARF Dean that the Avs are 14 for 14 on their last 14 penalty kill attempts. So they are really rolling right now. It's a great thing to see. You obviously just hope you don't peak now, right? You want to peak in April, May, June. But hey, you got to like where you're at least right now for the time being.
Yeah, and I agree with you in terms of peaking later is better, but I think right now is just about as late as it gets without being in that perfect window in terms of winning in the later part of the season. So I'm with you there. I love what you have to say about Middlestat, because we've talked at length, on this program about just how he might or might not fit into this Colorado Avalanche squad. But Ezra, what do you think of Middlestat? To me, he's filling in nicely. What have you thought so far?
Oh yeah, he's been so good. He's flashing the skill. He's playing effective in the defensive zone, which was the big concern area for him, right? And his line has dominated on the ice, like night in, night out. They are winning their matchups no matter who it's against. The Vancouver game in particular, he shut down Elias Pettersson. I think if I don't have the stats in front of me, but if I remember correctly, the scoring chances were 12-0 with Middlestat on the ice against Pettersson. It was dominant. It was dominant. And I mean, I think a huge part of that, and my answer to the first question of today's pod, what's been the key to the Avs win streak, a huge part of that is him and Jonathan Drouin playing together well, which I wasn't sure about, because, that's two guys who are similar play style. I thought maybe Middlestat would be locked next to Nichushkin, so Nichushkin could provide that defensive support that Middlestat wasn't known for, but it hasn't been Val doing that. It's been Jonathan Drouin, which is amazing. And Arturi Lehkonen to an extent too, who's obviously fantastic. And all of that to say, Middlestat's been wonderful, and it's great to have Nichushkin back.
Yeah, he's the X factor, and Middlestat could very well be the little missing piece on that second line that the Avs have been dying for, as it appears right now. I'm with you too. I'm stoked on all the new guys. I think they've brought a new life to the squad. I think it's apparent in the results. Anytime you bring in people from clubs around the league that aren't necessarily in the position that the Avs have been in for the last few years, you kind of get a breath of fresh life. A different perspective comes into the room and says, hey, guys, don't take this for granted. You're a part of a very good team. And I think we've seen that. I think we've seen the old guys elevate with the new guys coming in and kind of buying in almost immediately, which is a very, very positive sign for the Colorado Avalanche. I saw a pretty funny meme the other day on X, and it was, let's throw Jonathan Drouin and Casey Middlestat on a line with Lehkonen. And it was the photo from Moneyball, and he says, we're going to have to teach one of them how to shoot, though. But, it's actually worked out. I mean, we've seen Middlestat actually kind of pimp his release, especially last night against the Blues. So I think he has more of a scoring touch than maybe he's even shown in the future with the Avalanche. So that would be some pretty optimistic stuff going forward. But Evan, as I mentioned, kind of in the lead up, the Avs are winning on the road. And I'm going to send this one to you too, Ezra, but I want to start with Evan. But we talked, a few episodes back, in a couple episodes in a row about the Avalanche really having a hard time on the road this season. That doesn't seem to have been the case on the last road trip. Is that enough to kind of like eliminate your road concerns as we head and get closer to the playoffs?
I think it is. And I think that's, I'll say it's for a few reasons. One, this is against good quality teams. That Vancouver game on the second half of back-to-back, phenomenal comeback. Way to dig deep and pull out a win out of that. What was an abysmal, first 20 minutes of that game and beyond. There you look at Calgary. Yeah, Calgary's like there. Edmonton. What a game that Edmonton game was. Oh my word. Maybe we can touch on that more later on, just that game in particular. But that is a playoff game in a playoff atmosphere against a playoff team. We've seen what the Avs have done in the past against the Oilers, and it looked very similar to it. I spoke with AJ on X after the game, AJ Hafley of DNVR, and I was like, it's giving 2022 vibes a little bit, but like it's hard to compare the two because they are obviously not the same, but it's giving 2022 vibes. And St. Louis is in the race for the playoffs, and and they were on a win streak themselves. So that's really good to see that they are showing up against competitive teams now on the road, which is wonderful. And the nice thing too is that there's only a handful of road games left for the Avs this season. There's not that many left. So I'm not too concerned about it from here on out. You can do your damage at home as you've done all season for the rest of the year as you continue to strive for the top of the Central Division, and hope that the same sort of performances that you got in the last week and a half show up when the road playoff trips begin in April.
Yep. Well, and I asked this question because I mentioned on X that, if we learned anything from 2022, which we should learn a lot if we're smart, but the Avs won plenty of games. I mean, they won every series on the road, and it kind of took road victories in the playoffs for the Avs to kind of get over the hump. So for me, I'm thinking winning on the road is really important, but I'm also with you. Like this string of road wins, it would be anecdotal if it were kind of a more grouping of teams, but you're totally right. The teams that they played, Calgary, maybe the worst of them, but like the Blues are like you said, trying to chase down the West. They won 4 in a row. Like they're doing great. The Canucks are still the Canucks. The Oilers are potential Western Conference final face-off. So, I mean, it was just really, really nice to see. Ezra, what were your thoughts? So was there a particular win in that string of road wins that kind of stood out to you?
Yeah, there was. I think the Vancouver game really stood out to me because it's a game where they get behind, and a lot of these other road games that they were losing, especially in that brutal road swing earlier this year, they would get behind and just kind of be like, "All right, we got to save our energy for the next game because we're playing in 2 days in a new city." And they kind of they looked like they were packing it in a little bit when they got behind, but in this one, they got behind, even though they were outplaying Vancouver to an extent in the first period, and they just clawed their way back in. And I really love to see that. The Oilers win also a standout win too, because that one, I mean, they were the better team on the ice the entire game in an up and down game against a very good team, completely shutting down Connor McDavid. I mean, I loved it. That also Middlestat matched up against McDavid too.
Yep.
That was really impressive. But I think thinking about like in terms of the playoffs and what the difference between this road swing versus the previous one, obviously depth is huge, but I also think if you just look at the schedule, you saw a road trip where every other night they were in a different city. They never got to like settle in and actually like focus on somebody for an extended period. And and they lost a bunch of those games. And this current road trip, yes, they played in a bunch of different cities, but they also had a couple days rest to like gear up and focus on a team. And in the playoffs, they're not going to have rest. They're going to play every other night, but they're going to be focused on one team. And I think that's huge. I think that gives them a little bit of a different mentality than they had during those road those road losing streaks, that they were forced into this mentality of jumping from team to team super quickly. So this is encouraging to me. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see some road wins continue, but definitely I'm encouraged by this.
Yeah, well, and I'm Googling it right now using Google Maps to see what the travel time is from Vancouver and
they went Calgary, Vancouver, Edmonton.
Calgary, Vancouver. It's obviously not a drive, so that's that's
a blame.
But I'm with you there because you're right. Like, and it's funny that you mentioned that because, like, to me, it's like, what are schedulers doing? Because this is probably how these road trips should go, and especially if you're going to have a back-to-back mixed in there, this is probably how those road trips should go. But they like seem to have set up more than just the Avalanche teams to be on road trips with like very like hard, like you said, different city every night kind of scheduling. So hopefully in the next season, the NHL can kind of figure that out. But what I will say is nice about, the way this has all rolled out is it seems like every team in the NHL that's vying for something against another squad will have to face that same team along the road to the end of the, like the wild card race, the Blues and the Knights and all those teams kind of down there in that area, they're going to play each other before season's end. The Avs played Dallas and Winnipeg, I think like 3 or 4 times between the two squads in these last 13 or 14 games. So like, it's going to be fun to see the end of this season through. And I'm with the two of you guys, like road success. I want to see more of that for the Avalanche as we finish this. But Evan, as you mentioned, most of it's at home, which will be cool for Avalanche fans who I bet have been jonesing to get back into Ball Arena. I know I am. Still trying to get little baby Adrian into his first game. So maybe we'll do that here in April and have some fun there. But let's get into the breakaway challenge this week, which I'm saving time for because I feel like we're going to have a lot.
The breakaway challenge.
All right, so here's how this works. We call this the breakaway challenge because each participant has a minute to dish their opinion, and I give them points for anything that I feel they've validly stated. And, you just got to do it in a minute's time. The person who has the most points gets to introduce our next segment. And while I have your attention, please head on over to puckyeti.com if you love Avalanche content. So, Evan, Ezra, it's just the two of you today on the Bro Show. And I've got quite a juicy topic. I'm kind of bummed that Jackie's not here because I know she'd have a lot to say, but that's okay. I'll live with just the two of you on the subject, I guess. But Justus Annunen has looked pretty good since the Avalanche decided, hey, you know what? We're actually going to give you a real shot at this, not just bring you up for a week and then send you back down. He's actually gotten some starts and he's looked good in them. He's secured plenty of victories and starting to look like he could be the true backup to Georgiev this season. But my question is, should Justus Annunen be offered a contract extension? And what does his future look like to you in Colorado? If he's not deserving of that extension right now, tell me what you think he needs to do in order to earn it. Who wants to go first?
I'll do it.
Oh, you guys were both hesitant there. Oh my God, I'm going wild with the cameras here. All right, here we go. Your time starts now. Go.
Oh, geez. Okay. Justus Annunen is deserving of a contract. Absolutely he is. And it is beneficial for him and the Avalanche because Only Georgiev is under contract for next year. Francouz is probably not coming
breakaway
back
challenge.
with his injury issues, and Annunen will probably be a lot cheaper than Francouz is right now. Francouz's contract is about $2 million or so. Annunen, I feel like could probably get around $1 million, 1.5. I would like for Annunen to have maybe a 1 year like prove it deal, and then maybe he can go a little bit 1A, 1B with Georgiev for next season. Then he'll get even more playing time, get even more comfortable, and see where he goes from there. With that being said, I also would not be surprised if Annunen gets a 2-year deal or a 3-way deal, kind of like a bridge deal almost. Because then at that point you have to worry about Georgiev being re-signed, and maybe Annunen will maybe truly then be the starter.
Oh, did I give you that last one? I think I gave you the last one. All right, that gives you
I
7.
appreciate all of the sound effects in my
Oh my god,
ridiculous one.
You were like, yo, breakaway challenge. Oh, geez, but hey,
I was on top of my game.
You had 7 points there, and you were ready to go. I just had to make sure you were still on your toes over there, managing editor. But yeah, 7 points there. I like what you had to say. But I don't want to touch on it too much because I want to give time to one Ezra. Are you ready, Ezra? Sorry, I don't mean to give you the advantage of not starting it without you being ready. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, here we go. Justus Annunen, does he deserve a contract extension? If he does not, what does he need to do in order to do so in your mind? And time starts now.
Absolutely, he deserves a contract extension. Since he's been given an opportunity in the NHL, he's had a couple of shutouts, a couple of 1-goal games, and a couple of performances where maybe he's a little shaky to start, but then he locks it down and shows the Avs who he really is. And I think that we see him as the starter in 2 years. I think that's where it ended up. I think Georgiev plays out his contract and leaves, and Annunen takes over. I think the team not trading for a veteran backup is a huge vote of confidence for Annunen. That's saying, hey, this guy can do it right now, and you know what? We don't even need to think about the future right now because we've got somebody. And I think that's huge. I think he rides that wave of confidence into a solid offseason, gets ready to be the official backup next year, and takes over the job for the following season. I don't expect him to take over the job mid-year, but if he and Georgiev can become a solid 1A, 1B combination, that's like back in the days of Kemper and I saw the time running out, and my brain was just like, "It's over, it's over, it's over, it's over." But Kemper and Francouz is what I was trying to say. Then that's a winning combination, I think.
You're muted.
I'm gonna give you that last one because we all get deer in the headlights every once in a while, especially when we start hearing that clock literally going. So I got Ezra with the victory with 8 points over Evan with 7. Yeah, you rattled off 4 in like the first 20 seconds. So
I'll take it.
And the reason the 4 that you brought up that the one that you brought up in particular that I liked that Evan didn't necessarily touch on was his prospect of becoming the starter one day here in Colorado. And I think that's a really important thing to ask yourself, not if you want to bring him back to be the backup, because I mean, that is a question you can ask, but I think the more important question to ask is, can he come and be a part of the system, or be a goalie that comes from the system and becomes a starter for the Avs, which is pretty rare. I don't know that I can think of one off the top of my head, honestly, that has ever existed.
The first since Peter Budaj.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Mm-hmm. That's been a long time. So
yeah,
it's been a long time coming. So, and I agree with both of you. I think Annunen has done basically all that you could really ask a goaltender to do in his time up. Ezra, you kind of wrap. That's just why I gave you the 4 in such quick succession, because you mentioned, a few different styles in which he's proved himself. He's got the shutout. He's won games where, and these ones were more important to me, he's won games where he gave up 2 goals in the first minute and then shut it down from there on. Because what's really important in the playoffs is being able to withstand momentum swings, and nothing swings momentum like a goal. But if you have a keeper who can basically, feel that momentum swing, but kind of sink back into his game instead of panic and kind of become a liability, you have something on your hands. And it goes even further to think he was a part of 2022 Stanley Cup champion team. Obviously not in a starting capacity, but he traveled with the team. He was on the ice when they celebrated. So it's like he's a part of the Avs as they've been and hopefully as they will be into the future. So I'm with you guys. I mean, we all agree there, but Ezra, what's your winners topic segment today?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the big news, other than winning and new players fitting in nicely this week, has been Kovalenko came across from Russia, and
Yes.
he's still rehabbing his knee, so he got sent down to the AHL to do that. And I'm just curious what your thoughts are on Kovalenko in the AHL.
I'm kind of, I mean, obviously it's a little disheartening because I think in everyone else's mind, and this might have been naive from the jump, I could be wrong, but I think everyone wanted him to kind of come straight to the NHL, and that, you know, the injury has changed that because they'll have to see him prove it, I think, a little bit that he's okay in the AHL, which scares the heck out of me because just like the KHL, things can get a little risky down in the A. But those are just my thoughts off the top. What do you think, Evan?
Yeah, I think I'm kind of in agreement with you there, thinking that that he would join the Avs and like the actual NHL club when he came over here. But I think I would like to think anyway that was the plan before he got injured in those final 2 minutes of his last game with Torpedo. But I am excited to see him in the AHL and see what he can do. Because as you mentioned, the AHL and KHL can be similar. And I'm interested to see what he can do. Now, the only kind of downside to that is running the risk of a big hit from a guy who's trying to prove it. Another Matt Rempe-esque sort of person who's down there. There's always that risk, but he's already fitting in nicely with the Avalanche culture because Jared Bednar said this morning on his show that he is currently week to week. So it's going to be a while, at least until he's out on the ice. So he is. He really is. Someone else made that joke on Twitter or X this morning. So credit to whoever that was. I don't remember who it was now, but yeah, it was somebody a part of Avs Twitter. But I do hope that he does recover. And let me actually pull up the schedule real quick. So there is, let's see, 1, 2, 3. There's only 4 weeks left in the Avs regular season anyway. Yep. So, like I said, he's week to week. Maybe then he shows up in one of those last 5 games of the regular season for the Avs. But that's going to be really tough, you know, because you're obviously in a playoff stretch right now. Is putting in a new guy really going to help you out? Same goes with the Eagles and up there in their playoff push. I actually don't know. I wish Jackie was here to answer this. I don't know if Kovalenko would be eligible for the AHL playoffs. Since he was not on the, I don't think he wasn't on the roster. Yeah, I wouldn't think so. So I was like, I'm pretty sure he would. That would be, that makes sense, yeah, that would be interesting. So maybe then what they do is, with only 4 weeks left in the regular season for the Avs, is that they have Kovalenko rehab develop there. Maybe he gets in. I'd have to look at the Eagles schedule, but maybe he gets 1 game in with the Eagles. 1 or 2 games in before then he comes up with the Avs. We saw that with Byram when he was hurt and coming back. He played a couple of games with the Eagles before being called back up to the Avalanche. So we're just going to have to see really how it all unfolds.
So I'm looking at the schedule right now for the Eagles, and it looks like they have a game tonight against Milwaukee. I assume that's what that shorthand is. And then they don't play again until what looks like the 29th and 30th of March against whoever Abford. What is it?
Oh, the Abbotsford.
Abbotsford. Abbotsford. So that's I bet you he probably plays in those 2 games for sure, right? Those Abbotsford games at the end of March.
It depends on how he's feeling, though, right? With his week-to-week recovery. So the Avs' last game is on April 18th. That's against the Oilers at home. I don't know when the Eagles' last game is.
Well, that's what I'm saying is those are the last 2 Eagles games on the
that's it?
Schedule. Yeah.
They don't have any games on April?
30th. No, not according to the schedule I'm looking at.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I didn't know that.
So that would mean he basically would have to play those either tonight or one of those two games if he's really intending on playing in the NHL AHL at all. And then by that time, April 1st, you got Avs are on the road against Columbus, and then on to Minnesota, and then on to Edmonton. So I'm gonna say he maybe comes back in April 7 against the Stars, or maybe April 9th against the Wild. If I had to guess, I have no insight, but I'd imagine they do it at home. Maybe even later than that. There's another home game on the April 13th against the Jets. My thing is that might be a huge game.
That would be a huge game. And
yeah,
also, I want to hold on. I just want to correct you real quick. The Eagles do play in April. I don't know what schedule you were looking at, but on their website, the Eagles website, their last game is at home versus the Ontario Reign, April 21st. So that's actually right before the Avs playoffs start. So I could actually, if depending again how his recovery goes, I could actually see him probably playing somewhere up until then.
What am I missing then? Are you seeing this?
It's above the Eagles logo.
Oh, you dirty rascals! That graphic.
I did the same thing. I went to this website and I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, it is only March. Wait a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So now that makes more sense. Well, there you go. Hope you can see this, people not only listening and not watching. But yeah, so they do play in April.
Website, you see it.
Yeah. Okay. So they play in April. That's good news. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different series he could play with the Eagles before coming up to Colorado as late as what date did you say was the last one? The 21st of April?
April 21st, which is right before the Avs playoffs would begin. They would start sometime that week. So
I still think probably that homestand. I doubt they bring him in for one game, you know what I mean, before the playoffs. Like they're going to want to take him for a spin before getting into the playoffs if they're serious at all about putting him in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would think, especially given the way Bednar tends to be with trusting young players, he would need to get a couple of games at the NHL level in the regular season before he gets regular playing time in the playoffs. But at the end of the day, like if injuries strike, then he's going to be a call-up because he is 24. He's an established player. He as long as he learns the system quickly, which allegedly he's a smart guy who can do that. I don't know too much about him, but from what I've read. So I would expect to see him as soon as injuries start to hit, he'll come up regardless. But yeah, ideally he gets up in April and can play some regular season games too.
Yeah, the missing month in Adrian's mind for the Eagles, April. But I'm with you there. I hope we get to see him in the AHL, and I hope he just crushes it down there, so that when he comes up, it's like there's no doubt in anyone's mind, even his own teammates and stuff. It's like, no, this guy's good. Let's bring him up and let's see what he can do. I hope that's kind of what his trajectory ends up looking like after his time in the AHL. The other thing that we haven't quite touched on yet is MacKinnon's performance as of late, as he's kind of chasing down the Hart Trophy with Nikita Kucherov kind of being his competition, I think, right now. And I was listening to Sirius NHL radio today, which I like to do because it's nice to kind of get the national head's opinion and see what they're thinking of the Colorado Avalanche. But it seems like one of the common themes around MacKinnon, not just this season, but in years past where he's been considered for Hart, has been a discrediting of him because he plays with other elite talent, i.e. Cale Makar, Mikko Rantanen, and Val Nichushkin, as it turns out. Evan, what do you think of that sort of critique? And are you kind of like on the fence, or are you all in on MacKinnon for Hart?
I'm all in on MacKinnon for Hart, of course. Yeah. Bias aside, of course. Yeah. But I don't know, that comment that the Sirius radio said about playing with talent, like Connor McDavid has Leon Draisaitl. He also has Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. There's a lot of good talent up in Edmonton. Yeah. So I don't really see the comparison there, I guess.
Yeah.
But
and my point was same with Tampa is Hedman, Stamkos, and Braden Point probably would have something to say about not being considered, decent teammates to be playing with. Yeah. So
I don't know. That's why I'm a little bit befuddled by that.
Yeah.
And I think more too, especially as of late, just because McDavid has been chasing them pretty much from the start of the season after the Oilers started so badly. So he's kind of been put behind the eight ball, whereas MacKinnon and Kucherov have been on top of it, battling all year long for their teams, right? So I think that really it is not supposed to be an award of streakiness. It is supposed to be an award of consistency. And Nathan MacKinnon has two of the longest point streaks in the league all year long. He's on one right now with, I think, 20 games or almost 20 games. So that should be telling in and of itself, right? And when you look at the head-to-head in particular, granted, when Nikita Kucherov and Nathan MacKinnon went up head-to-head in Tampa, that did not end very well in February. But like McDavid, when that happened on Saturday, MacKinnon won that. And I saw a lot of people debating on social media about this. His overtime assist where he kicks it off of his left skate to his stick and then throws it to the front of the net. People are saying that alone should win him the Hart. And I did not notice that play at all until the next morning. So that was kudos to them for that. And just a phenomenal play by Nate.
It's a heady play because what he's really effectively doing there is he's using his body position and his left leg and skate to shield the defender from using his stick and simultaneously kicking it to his own stick. So, yeah, it's just an unreal top-level elite play in the corner, and it goes to show what kind of character MacKinnon has because he goes into that corner with 5 and 6 seconds left, knowing it's basically going to have to be that way where he's going to have to win it quick and get it to the front of the net. And that's exactly what he did. And, you know, you could say what you want about head-to-head and stuff, but I always say this, and it kind of can rub some people the wrong way, but it always looks close until it doesn't. And just because the score itself kind of pointed towards the game being close, especially against Edmonton, I felt like the Avs controlled play considerably in that matchup. Go ahead, Ezra. What do you think of that?
No, I'm just agreeing with you. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Oh, no, you're good.
They dominated that game. The underlying stats are beautiful. It's it is a really great game. Vancouver was a little shakier, but they still came out on top. But anyway, we're talking about an MVP. I think the only logical explanation I have for why serious people would be saying that is if you only look at the stats and you see, MacKinnon and Rantanen are both in the top 6 in scoring. It must be that Rantanen is propping up MacKinnon. But then if you like spend any time watching an Avalanche game, you're like, Rantanen's not even trying out there. MacKinnon's doing So I don't know how you could possibly have that opinion if you've been watching Avalanche hockey. But that's the rub, right? They probably aren't. Western Conference games are notoriously harder for people on the East Coast to watch. But also, I mean, Kucherov is amazing. Like, McDavid shouldn't. I don't. It's MacKinnon or it's Kucherov, in my opinion.
Agreed. Yeah.
And if you want to vote for Kucherov, I can't get mad at you. He's single-handedly willing this team to stay in the playoff race, even though they are clearly understaffed. And he's having an amazing season. But yeah, I'm all for Nate, obviously.
Well, yeah, I'm with you. He's like Kucherov has his hands on like seriously 50% of Tampa's goals this season, which is unreal. I think there's like 3 or 4 players that have done that ever when the season is ended. Now, keep in mind though, MacKinnon has 45% of hand on points, on a better team according to SiriusXM. So for me, it's like you got guys who can score up and down the lineup. It's harder to score a higher percentage of points or be a part of a higher percentage of goals. So to me, that's a mark on MacKinnon too. But I'm with you. Like, if you vote for Kucherov, I'm not going to be mad. If you vote for MacKinnon, I'm not going to be mad. If you vote for McDavid, I'm probably going to be mad because then you're going to be giving McDavid his 4th. And there's only a few guys in the history of the game who've gotten their 4th. And I think if you're going to do that, he better be far and away better than everybody. Otherwise, you can't really give it to him now.
I mean, if he deserved it, sure.
Exactly.
He's an amazing player. He's the most talented player in the game, but he couldn't get anything to go his way for half the season. So I don't see how he can be the MVP. It's amazing how well he's done since then, but come on.
Yeah, I think the MVP for them has been the coaching change, apparently, because that seemed to work when it wasn't working at all. They bring in a new coach and bada bing, bada boom. And everybody was mad because Woodcroft was their guy. But I wonder how they feel about it now because everything seems to be peachy keen out in Edmonton now. Um, but
I will say this. Going back to the original topic of Sirius XM and saying that MacKinnon was propped up by Miko Rantanen,
they
I
said the
guess,
same
which
thing
doesn't
about
make sense.
Kale, which is hilarious. So
I
they
know.
use it for every Av, basically.
I will say this though. The 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 proposition of Nikita Kucherov winning the Hart simply for Tampa Bay, for him dragging Tampa Bay towards the playoffs and kind of keeping them in that conversation, it would not surprise me then if they look at
Yeah.
that. But then I would turn around and look at last season and say, well, what about Mikko Rantanen not getting the same sort of love that he was doing, basically
point.
the same thing that Kucherov is doing
Mhm.
now with the Avalanche, who were injury riddled last year, and Rantanen was really the only one and was the driving force of the team, right?
Mhm.
So I would look and consider that too. And sure, Mikko Rantanen is no Nathan MacKinnon, right? He is no Cale Makar, he is no Connor McDavid per se, but he's still pretty damn good, if I do say so myself. Just look at his hat trick last night. Like, come
Yeah.
on. So I don't know. It would not surprise me if Kucherov does win it solely for that reason, I guess you could say. And I know the conversation in the past has been the market talk, right? We mentioned how nobody watches in the West, right? Nobody watches those late West Coast games. Same with the NCAA committee, but I'm going to have a thing with them later. Sorry, go Rams, by the way.
Yeah, go
But
Rams.
but uh, I mean, they Tampa was saying the same thing of like, it's a small market here in Tampa, no one really watches. It is. You were back to back Stanley Cup finalists for the Eastern Conference. Like,
Calm
it
down.
doesn't add up. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. So,
Yeah.
like I said, it would not surprise me if Kucherov won it for that reason that Sirius XM is putting out there. But we'll just have to see what comes about from it. The nice thing is that voting ends when the regular season ends.
Mhm.
So you don't really have to worry too much about what happens in the playoffs. If the Avs get bounced again in the first round, if Tampa gets bounced in the first round, whatever. So it's just a real matter of like here and now, right?
Yeah.
What are you going to
Well,
do now
hopefully,
to earn it?
yeah, that's a good point. And hopefully, we got MacKinnon and Makar at the NHL Awards show on the eve of Stanley Cup final game, like we did a couple years ago with Makar winning the Norris and saying, "Yeah, this is pretty cool, but we got a bigger trophy in mind." And then he went out and got that even bigger trophy and a Conn Smythe to boot. So that would bode well for the Avalanche if we see that voting, end in the regular season, and then we get serious about playoff hockey, and times are good. Back in the Stanley Cup final, we get to find out if we get the cherry on top of finally getting the MacKinnon Hart, finally, having a back-to-back Norris Trophy winner. Which actually, am I wrong about that? No, I'm not wrong about that. That'd
He
be
won
back
last
to back.
year.
Yeah, back to back to back. Right? Would be three-peat, wouldn't it, for Makar? Or am I tripping?
No, he didn't
No.
win it last year.
No, he didn't.
I thought it was someone
So
else.
we'll get him back in the winning column
There
of
you
the
go.
Norris Trophy.
Oh yeah, it was Carlson last year.
Yeah, it
Carlson.
was Carl. Yeah, he had that year out of freaking absolute nowhere, which is awesome
100
for him.
points from the defenseman. Yeah.
Yeah. So that being said, it's pretty clear this program is Mac for Hart all day long. Although we have respect for what Kucherov has done and has willed his team seemingly into a playoff position. But I do want to touch on something a little bit solemn. But I would feel bad or I feel amiss if I didn't. Just want to touch on the passing of Chris Simon, the former Avalanche enforcer. He was an NHL guy, played for a lot of teams. Just from this program out to his family, we extend our deepest condolences. He was a lot of fun to watch, and I hope you can take that and have a little bit of happiness knowing that he gave me some of that as well. So thank you to the Simon family for being so strong in this time, and we appreciate, all that your family member has done to contribute to hockey and Avalanche folklore. Do you two want to touch on that at all?
Yeah, I just want to say that CTE and concussions suck, even though Bill Daly said otherwise today, which just but anyway.
Yeah.
yeah, I have had personal concussion issues playing soccer, so I'm well used to it. And CTE sucks, and I really hope that things kind of get switched around for that. And yeah, obviously it's a big crisis and super unfortunate for him. He's before my time, so I can't say too much about him or his play style really at all. But yeah, really hope that he and his family, or that his family, will be able to recover, take the news well, grow and from here on out. And just want to say, if you're struggling with anything, it does not hurt to reach out for help. In the United States, at least, the national hotline is 988. So be sure to get in touch with them if you need anything at all, or going through anything similar. So that is all I have to say about it.
Awesome. That's awesome, Evan.
Yeah, that's Evan took the words out of my mouth. CT is a huge issue, and it's really, really devastating to hear the NHL continue to deny it. The connection between the game and CT, it's pretty absurd, frankly.
Yeah,
like if the NFL can admit it, why can't the NHL? It's mind-boggling. But hopefully Chris Simon's family is able to weather the pain okay and come through this, and his contributions to the league and his experience as a player who put himself on the line, put his body on the line, put his brain on the line, and ended up with some CTE related with a CTE related death. I think it's fair to say. Hopefully that can be one of the nails in the coffin of that CTE debate, and we can finally make some progress on it. But
I agree. Yeah, hopefully.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I totally agree with you, both of you guys. I mean, the debate is over, I think, and not to use the passing of someone as kind of like a moment of putting forward an idea or anything like that. But you're right. Like, if there's anything to be done in the wake of losing somebody to these CTE related symptoms, as you put it, now it's been the time. And this is just another example of, that there has to be acknowledgement and work done in this department for the Avalanche, not just the Avalanche, but every player and all the future players. I got a young son right now. And as a father, you can't help but contemplate in all contact sports, like, when do you actually send your kid to go do it? And it all becomes very real when things like this happen. So like we said, rest in peace, when Chris Simon, and we reach out to the family and hope that they can handle this, as best as anybody could, because that's a tough situation, very tough situation. But let's move on, and we'll do, the last thing that we'll do, as we always do here, is our bold predictions. And we will hopefully kind of turn the page and maybe get things rolling in a direction that, we can kind of have a good time here. So let's talk about last week's bold predictions. I'm going to run the tape real quick.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Let's call that bold talk.
All right, so I'm going to go look up last week's bold prediction. Man, that's a tough topic to touch on and then move on quickly from.
Yeah,
so,
what a tough transition.
Yeah, oh my goodness. So, I mean, I'm not to make light of the situation, but folks, we're trying to be respectful here and also kind of run our show. So hope you guys can hang in there with us. But let's touch on these bold predictions from last week. I believe we got some dings, which is always wonderful. Ado switched his vote from a MacKinnon hat trick to a MacKinnon Mac trick and was immediately rewarded with a Mikko hat trick. So I didn't earn a ding.
So close.
Yeah, we will give me an X there. Hard no. And then we had one Mr. Evans' bold prediction was that Sean Walker would have a 3-point week before our next show. I'm pretty sure that happened. Yeah.
Nope, it was only 2.
Oh, it was 2.
I looked right before. I looked
All
right before. He only got those 2 points with the 2 goals in Edmonton. If he had finished off the breakaway hat trick in overtime, Oh
got
my
it.
God.
Oh my
That would have been
goodness.
phenomenal. Oh well. It was very
Oh,
close. That takes nothing away from how great Sean Walker is, and I know we touched on it at the very beginning of the show too. So uh here's to a 3-point week eventually for him.
yeah, you were so close. That would have been cool too. Like the hat trick, I don't even know. That would have been the boldest of predictions if somebody actually said that. But we did have a ding in that Jackie said MacKinnon would double McDavid's point production. It was one, but I don't know. Would you consider one double of zero? Maybe that's not true. Like math.
I would count that.
Yeah, like
I would count that.
one is 100% more than zero. Oh, we'll just put it like that.
Well,
So
you can't get half a point.
yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, we'll give Jackie a ding there. So Jackie, congratulations. It feels like every time you get a bold prediction right, you're not here for the show to get your roses, but
It's
that's
really
okay.
true.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I got my bold prediction right. Guess I'm not.
so that's why she's not here today. I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about this week's bold predictions. What do you two gentlemen have for me? Go ahead, Evan.
Ooh, I haven't actually thought too much about it. I'll think of one that comes off the top of my head here. Yeah, why not? Alexander Georgiev will get a shutout this week. Or I take it back. Any goalie will get a shutout for between our
I love
until
it.
English, Evan. Any goalie will get a shutout before our next show.
That's gonna be my
Any
Christmas
goalie
present.
in the whole league is going to get it.
Any Avalanche goalie. Let me not make that mistake again.
Oh, Avs get shut out in every game from now until next show.
If
by
they get shut
different
out,
goalies.
if they get shut out Friday night against Columbus, there's going to be some real stern talking that I'm going to get from Ezra.
How did you do that again? You did it again. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. I'm gonna make you a shirt and give it to you for Christmas, Evan, that says English is hard, because that's your catchphrase, man. That's real good stuff there. All right,
I want to do
Ezra.
this as a job, but still sometimes it gets to me. Just how it is.
Oh, all right, Ezra. Well, Evan's got a shutout somewhere in the NHL. What do you got?
All right. Let's see. We got 3 games before our next show, most likely, assuming we do
Yeah.
another Wednesday. So I'm gonna say 5 points from Casey Middlestat
Ooh, in those, obviously in that time frame. Gotcha.
in those 3 games. Yeah,
5 points from Casey.
That would
And
be really bold.
I love his play.
that's what I do.
I love that he's like quietly good. He reminds me of MacKinnon or of Mikko Rantanen, excuse me, in that, you know how Ezra, you said like it's like he's not trying out there, and then all of a sudden he's got 3 goals. It's like that's not to say Middlestat doesn't look like he's showing effort, but there's just like kind of like a nonchalantness to him, and then all of a sudden he's in very dangerous position, and he's so patient with the puck and like
Yeah.
poised with the puck. Like he holds on to it longer than I ever could imagine, but doesn't put it in a dangerous position simultaneously. In fact, he creates time and space for other people while he does it. So I'm loving that. I bet you more than half of it comes from assists, but
Yeah.
I think you're right. I think that's a good bold prediction.
If I had to like hedge it and say, or not hedge it, but like double down and like specify, I'd probably say 1 goal for assists. But
Okay, I
let's
like
not
a
make
bold.
that love of that.
I'm gonna write it down anyway, just because.
Okay.
Just because, you never know. You might be totally right. And plus, I get all my wagers from our bold predictions. And how am I going to make it? I'm just kidding. I'd be broke as hell if I made all my wagers from our bold predictions.
Yeah, we do not. We way over promise and under deliver.
Yeah. These
Please
are
bet
not
responsibly if you're of age. We should clarify that too.
Yeah. If you are
Honestly,
21,
don't bet. But
if you're
do what you
21,
want, but don't do it.
yeah, if you're 21, don't bet. But if you are going to, don't use any of our information to do so. that is we do not advise that. But my bold hope, as we dub them. And I really liked the shutout. I was gonna go with that. I can't do the hat trick now because now all top 3 guys have got one. I'm gonna go with my from the jump. My favorite player, prospective player for the Avalanche this season has been Jonathan Drouin. So I'm gonna circle my whole thing around Joe, and I'm gonna say that Drouin is gonna have. I'm gonna steal your 5-point marker there, Ezra.
Okay.
Jonathan Drouin is gonna have 5 points, and you know what? If they're on the same line, it might happen
Yeah.
for both of them.
Yeah, totally. It really comes down to which one of them gets power play time.
Yeah, and they both are gonna have 4 assists
Yeah,
and 1
for
goal.
sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
yeah, yeah.
That's
So
their
we got
problem. They just try to assist on each other's goals the whole time, but
dude,
nobody's
that pass
seeing.
to or to Miko's stick, the
Oh man,
redirection goal. Oh,
yeah, that
that's
was so
nasty.
nice. And
I
then
don't know how
Drew
you
had
don't.
another one that on that same power play where he set up McCarr in the slot. And I was like, damn,
Mhm.
like no look, one touch. Oh, it was a
Yeah.
little off. I won't lie, but it was nice.
It's crazy to see, like, he has all of the stuff that we knew he could do, like all those cool skill touch plays that you're kind of talking about, but you're
Mhm.
totally he's not he seems to have turned the page on being that, like, defensive liability, which I think, like, if we've learned anything, that might be like Jared Bednar's secret sauce, is bringing in guys that are seemingly not necessarily the best two-way players and making them emphasize this, the other side of their game to the point where their upside becomes secondary, which is pretty crazy to me. What are your
Yeah.
guys on that?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I think he can take any player who can skate and turn them into an effective forechecker or back checker, because it really does come down to just like, are you capable of playing in the speed of the system? Are you willing to buy into it? Then you're going to be very good.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, yeah, it's been awesome. I think Druin is a clear example of a guy whose reputation and reality are very different after playing for Bednar. Uh,
Mhm.
it's wonderful. Yeah.
Are we gonna be able to keep him around, Evan?
That was gonna be what I brought up was that question of will Jonathan Druin be able to stay within the rotation? And that's a great question. I think I would say it's on the fence right now. I would say it's 50-50. I would like to think that he would consider a team friendly deal so he can keep playing with MacKinnon and keep having the same chemistry that he's having now. But I also don't blame him at all if he wants to go get his paycheck and go play
Mhm.
somewhere else. And I don't know where that would be, what that would look like. But you also have to consider too that the Avalanche have a lot of guys that they need to re-sign at the end of the season, particularly Casey Middlestat and Sean Walker. And then you also have the likes of Trennan, Duhaime, all of them as well. I'm wondering where it all fits together, right? So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see if they try to keep him. I think it would be a good fit for the Avs. Maybe I would say maybe another shorter term deal, like 2-3 years. I wouldn't do anything probably much more than that. Again, just to see where he goes. His health, of course, always kind of an issue. Well, not an issue, but more of a question mark around him, I would say. Glad that it's been avoided this year, knock on wood, wherever it is. But yeah, so it's going to be really interesting to see where we go in the offseason with him in particular.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
and
mean, speaking
he's
of
at.
health, it all comes sorry. It
You're
all comes
okay.
down to Gabe, really, because if Landy's
Good point.
back, I don't know how they fit anyone in. But if he's out, then there's room. So
I just look at his numbers in the past. Like, he got 5.5 from Marc Bergevin in Montreal. I don't know if he can get 5.5 again. Do you think that is that a thing for
he's
him?
looking at
Because
like 3.5 to 4, I'd
yeah, I
say.
was gonna say, because if it's 5.5, adios, amigo. Because there ain't no way that's fitting into this. But I'm of the opinion if anyone fits the kind of profile of somebody that would take a pay cut because of the environment and situation being ideal, it's Jonathan Drouin.
Mm-hmm.
Based on how this has gone, like, he's had his shot otherwise in other places, and it just didn't pan out for whatever reason. And the opposite is true here. He's only been here a short amount of time, and it's already basically revitalized his NHL career. We're talking about him getting $3.5 million and potentially 2 and 3 more years in the NHL. Like, that's why he came here, was to hopefully make that a thing. So I don't know how easy it will be to keep Jonathan Drouin, but I have faith that he and the Avalanche can come to terms in a way that will actually make sense and work for both parties, based on how he's found success here, and moving on from what's happened to him in the past. So that's just my opinion. I hope he's back, but either way, like, good for the kid who like we said, well, let me look at his stats real quick because last time we touched in, we were talking about him beating his previous career high. Let me see where he's at. I know he's had a couple of multi-point nights since then. So let's see. He's got 41 points, and his previous high is 53. So he's got to score 12 points in, what do we say, 13 games left? 14 games left?
Almost a point a game, yeah.
Yeah. So he needs to be a point a game to get to his 53, to match his career high of 53 points. And then I want to look at Mikko too, because we also talked about Mikko Rantanen getting to 50 goals. And
we'd have to score a goal a game
with the hat trick.
He's at 37 right now.
Yeah, he'd have to score a goal a game. 100 points though is still on the horizon. We got 7 points in those same 13 games, so
he'll get to 100.
Yeah, that's a good marker. Happen. Be nice. We'll have 200 point scores.
MacKinnon will get to 130.
Yeah. Do you guys think that Kale will 130 would be crazy? Do you think Kale's gonna run away with the scoring race for defensemen? But there's Roman Yossi's kind of sneaking up on everybody. What do you guys think of that?
I was going to ask what Makar's points totals was, if you could pull them up, but 75.
Right? Yeah, he's got 17 goals and 58 assists.
Yeah, I think he will. I feel like that Preds team is a little bit too, they can't fully get it rolling over there. And even if they make the playoffs or not, I don't think that Yossi would catch him.
So we got Quinn Hughes ahead of him by 4 points currently.
Yeah.
He also has 5 more games played, along with Roman Yossi, with Kale missing some time. So
how many games remaining though?
I know. Let's see. What does Vancouver have left? Let's see here.
I forgot about Quinn Hughes, to be quite frank. I don't think he's catching Quinn Hughes just because Vancouver has been a beast in the West this year. But he'll put up a good fight, that's for sure.
He has more points per game than Quinn Hughes, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah, so the Vancouver Canucks have 13 games left as well.
Okay.
He's got some work to do in terms of catching up to Quinn Hughes. He's 4 points back with the same amount of games left. As you mentioned, the points per game might work out though in his favor, based on, I don't know how much 13 games can get you with that percent or that, statistic, but I guess we'll find out. Either way, good things on the horizon for the Colorado Avalanche. We got new faces, fresh faces bringing in and revitalizing the club. We got multiple dudes that should be up for awards as the season comes to an end. Hopefully MacKinnon finally gets that much-deserved Hart. And, if the Avalanche go and make a cup run, whatever, it's fine too, I guess. If Gabe Landeskog wants to come back, that's even cooler. And it'll just be good times in Colorado. We'll be watching the Denver Nuggets every other night and the Avs in the playoffs again, like we did a couple years ago. So here's to that, folks. Thank you so much for tuning in. We got about 282 live viewers right now, which is awesome. We really appreciate all of you who watch and contribute and help us do what we do. Please head on over to milehighhockey.com. You can catch all of our content there. We do previews, recaps, opinion pieces, and more. You can also head on over to Puck Yeti, another site we kind of contribute to with the same sort of content, just a little bit of a different touch. And as always, follow us on X at Mile High Hockey and at all caps MHH_lab. Signing off from the Mile High Hockey Lab. I'm here with Ezra and Evan. I'm Adrian. Thank you so much. You folks have a good one and go at it.
Thank you for tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.